joining us on the Therapist's Invitation. We invite you to this conversation.
We invite you to sit with us.
I'm Trevor Sharon.
I'm Mark Mayfield.
And today we actually wanted to unpack two conversations that I think have more parallels than it might seem. And it's our relationship to food and our relationship to money.
What are you talking about?
I'm not sure. We should talk about something good first, though.
Okay, something good.
Something good. Okay, so for me, the something good is that I just booked a big project.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to do final upgrades on equipment for this year.
That's awesome.
Which is super exciting to me because it feeds that retail therapy part of me.
Is it the project I know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so I get to upgrade, some camera stuff, my computer, just for editing. And so I'm really excited to be able, everything's in right now and just putting it all together. And that's been so much fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think something good for me is I have a friend who is a ghostwriter, and she's working on this book with a pretty well-known author, New York Times bestseller, and they were looking for an expert for their next book. And so I sent them my manuscript that's being worked on right now for my book, and they just fell in love with it. And so I'm going to be the expert on her next book.
Fancy.
Which, 3 degrees of separation from a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Which is going to be kind of cool. And we're interviewing in a couple of weeks. And then, I'm going to pause for a minute and hopefully see if she'll be interested in writing my foreword.
Oh, nice.
For my book. So that's kind of honoring and exciting to see.
Well, and it's been really cool to be able to watch you, especially over the past, I'm going to say year and a half.
Okay. Yep.
To see you over the past year and a half really become this is only slightly a stretch, nationally recognized expert in the field of mental health.
Slight stretch.
Not too big of a stretch, though. Like you've been doing so much with the PR team that you're working with and the different individuals that you're working with that it's been really cool to see something that I saw in you early on come to a greater light, because there were times early on, and we joked about this, when people would say like, "Oh, Dr. Mayfield?" And it was like,
"What?
Yeah, I know Mark."
Okay, like,
duh.
What are you talking about?
But now
so
it's actually becoming a little bit more like that, where you're starting to be recognized for all of the work you've done here at Mayfield, the work that you've done through Candid and your books, and just the speaking events that you've done, which has been limited because of COVID. But it's really cool to see that really rise out in a dramatic way over the past year and a half.
Thanks, Trevor.
Yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
been cool.
I appreciate that.
I won't ever fanboy you, though, I promise.
Oh, gosh.
Just because that's not who I am.
I'll take you out at the knees if that happens. No.
Maybe one Halloween I'll fanboy you. I'll just dress up as you.
That's awesome. You got to let the hair grow out a little more on the top.
I know. I just need to go gray.
Yeah, well.
The sooner I can go gray, the better.
You've got a kid.
I do. But so far, she's just giving me frosted tips.
That's awesome.
Okay, so our relationship to food and money.
Okay, so tell me why you put those two together.
Yeah, so I was actually talking with a client this week about their relationship with food. Okay. And they had never heard that conversation because this is a very therapeutic way of talking.
Nobody really thinks about that unless you're a therapist. So.
Right. And so I was unpacking the idea that we can have a relationship with food that's very unhealthy, where we're associating things with food, or we're loading the idea of food up with these thoughts and beliefs that really shouldn't belong on food.
Give an example.
So food being a punishment, or being even like a coping skill, I would consider to be a somewhat unhealthy relationship with food.
Or a reward.
And so, this would look like I did something bad, so I am not allowed to eat food.
Oh.
Because food's only if I'm good.
Got you.
Or I've been really good, so now I can limit my food. Like it's a way to look at food where our relationship with food should not involve those beliefs.
Now, disclaimer. we're not eating disorder specialists, so we're not talking about that level of stuff.
Right.
We've got people on staff here at Mayfield that are.
Yep.
So if you have questions about that,
Yeah.
you could let us know.
And we did an episode of Candid Conversations about eating or disordered eating and eating disorders that I would highly recommend you check out.
Episode season 2,
I think so.
with Stephanie. So check that out. So just to be clear, this is not having a conversation about eating disorders or disordered eating. We have specialists that we can refer to. We got people on our staff that take care of that. Listen to the episode.
Yeah, Candid Conversations had an episode early on about disordered eating and eating disorders and the difference.
But I think we don't recognize how maladaptive our thought processes are around food and money.
Yeah, because I don't think money is very different. I think it's actually worse. Or more prevalent.
Or more allowed.
Oh.
Or accepted.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
It's more permissible to have unhealthy relationship with money than it is food.
Sure. I mean, think about what is the average debt of the American household?
Oh gosh, I know student debt is like $30,000 a person.
Right. But credit card debt's probably not any far off. Yeah. It's because it's this idea of I want what I want and I want it now versus saving up for it versus investing versus,
I actually had a friend, a buddy, Seth Gibson. He pointed out to me, he was like, it's been interesting. We used to have these concepts of if you had this car, you were well off and rich and, well-to-do. And that's not true anymore because almost anyone can end up with that vehicle as long as they go into debt.
$700 a month payment.
Yeah. And it was just really interesting to me because I didn't recognize that until he mentioned it.
Shout out to Seth.
Yep.
Hey, Seth.
Good up and coming counselor.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just interesting. Like anyone can go into debt to get the things that make us feel like we're whatever.
Well, I mean, what do you think the reason is for that? Do you think it's, obviously it's the credit card piece.
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey is really popular,
and
he puts up it's not a promotion of Dave Ramsey. It's just a statement that cash-based system is the way to do it. But but the credit card piece is huge, and I think one of the things that we don't do very well is we don't do financial planning in high schools. Like I think you and Bree and I were talking about this at one time of like, wouldn't it be nice if we could just teach kids like consumer math,
right?
How to balance a checkbook, how to balance a bank account, how not to go in debt,
or even like here's how to have patience for a sale,
right?
Like, things like that,
right? And here's how to shop around, and here's how to walk away when if you're if you're going and the sale's not in, and I could spend an extra $30 or $50 or $100.
Like if you walk into Hobby Lobby and you're trying to buy a picture frame, unless you need that picture frame that week, wait until the next weekend
and see if it's on sale,
because it probably will.
Or if you want to buy a car, wait until the end of the month or the end of the year when it goes on sale and they have rebates and that kind of stuff. Or wait until you can pay cash for a car. Or
I think one of the interesting things, and I think we mentioned this a few episodes ago about like retail therapy.
Yeah.
And I confessed that that's one of my problems.
It's the excitement of getting something in there.
Yeah. And I think, and this is pretty vulnerable for me too, and I'm sure it's going to strike a chord in a lot of people. For me, there's this deep, deep, almost subconscious thought that if I get more stuff, I will feel more complete.
Oh, yeah.
And that is a really unhealthy relationship to money. But
it's a legit experience. Feeling.
I'm sure it's pretty normal or typical.
And that's the hard part. I think, I remember when we first got married, I was willing to go into debt to get something that was quality because I wouldn't have to replace it in a year.
Yeah.
And, and Sarah was like, no, let's not go into debt and buy the inexpensive thing that we have to replace every 3 months. And so we had this kind of different viewpoints in money. We had to figure that out.
Yeah.
And, I think it's really important to sit down and have that honest conversation about money and about food. Because I think what was it, and maybe it's different now because of inflation and that kind of stuff, but wasn't it like I read something that happiness doesn't go up exponentially after $75,000 a year.
Yeah, it used to
like
be 60 and then it rose to inflation. So I think 75 might
maybe
be the accurate
80
number.
now, or I don't know what it is.
Yeah, but there's a cutoff where, I think you also mentioned a study a long time ago that the average individual says that the right amount of money for them to make is 25% more than they're making now.
Right.
And that doesn't change.
No, they get to 25% and they're like,
I need 25% more. Like
yeah.
That's the way that we function. And that once you get to that 75 or whatever it is, your satisfaction in life, your happiness with the quality of your life isn't really impacted.
Yeah. That should be something that I think we just sit with for a second and just pause, because it's like, what are we chasing?
I think I know.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm just going to say it. I think that there's a core need within us that we're trying to satisfy with food or money.
Yeah. It's probably going back to our conversation, a couple episodes ago about loneliness. I mean, it's that being seen, valued, loved, known.
Yeah.
Like, will I be liked for what I have? Will you like me because of what I have versus who I am?
Yeah, it's the idea of having the cool toys, like
it's the flashiness.
Neighborhood kid who had the cool toys.
Well, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. We talked about shopping therapy. That Amazon came and I got my book.
All right, I need to order something else.
Now what's next?
Right.
And you're like,
yeah. And I think it really comes down to there's and again, one of my favorite episodes is the sugar, porn, and fame episode. We are trying to satisfy a core need with something that does not satisfy that core need.
No, it's the lie. That it's like we're kicking the can down the road. So what would it look like to sit with that core need?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a vulnerable place to be.
Well, I think that's where we can actually hop into the conversation about food.
Sure.
And unhealthy relationships with food. So if we were to say that the parallel between the two is that there's a core need that we're trying to satisfy with both conversations. With food, let's take overeating or emotional eating, for example.
Let's do emotional eating. Yeah.
Something that I'm pretty sure every human being has done. Because, I mean, food is comforting.
Give me a freaking donut.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Or like even coffee. Like, I think a lot of the times I drink coffee not because I want the beverage or I am needing the boost of caffeine. It's because it brings me comfort and makes me feel a certain way, and I'm seeking that feeling.
Well, sure. I think me too. It's in the when I'm having a bad day or I'm having a difficult emotion. Remember, emotions are just indicators.
Right.
They're not good or bad. They're just telling us. It's like check engine light on the car.
Yeah.
Something's going on.
Yep.
Pay attention. And I was showing this video to my class at CCU, and it was for a different class, but I think a different concept, but I think it applies to this. Is emotional eating is like taking the oil check engine light comes on because of oil, and it's like opening up the engine compartment and taking the oil and just spreading it on top of the engine. All right, this video, and it's just like you wouldn't do that,
right?
You go and open up the oil, and maybe the oil cap's open so something gets in.
Yeah.
But, it's not.
Yeah.
It needs to go into the oil reservoir to fix that need. And I think for us too, when we have an emotional eating moment, it's like this. We're taking the oil. I'm not paying attention to why am I feeling this way.
Yeah. It's more of a reaction than a response.
Well, like yesterday, I will admit I emotionally ate. Now our emotional eating right now is different than others because we're still on keto and like we don't have anything in the house that's really bad for you.
I ate like 15 pork rinds.
Yeah, exactly. I had 5 chocolate covered almonds, but it was I think it could be no matter what you eat, it's the reason that you're eating. I wasn't hungry, but my dad had gone in for his last surgery, and for those that I've shared a little bit with, my dad has pretty much had a hell of a year.
Yeah.
With botched surgeries and prostate cancer and all that kind of stuff, and so. Here we are 8 months after his initial surgery, and he's having his last surgery to fix everything. Well, I thought, it's routine surgery. I'm fine. I'm good. Well, I got halfway through the day and nearly had a panic attack. And I'm like, where the heck is this coming from? Oh.
Yeah.
And I didn't sit with it.
Right.
And I'm bummed at myself a little bit that I just didn't sit with it going, okay, let me just feel that. I have the right to be anxious.
Yeah.
I have the right to be worried. you know, and then about 20 minutes later, my mom called and he's out of surgery and everything's fine. But I say that because, you know, I've 9 years of counseling education and I still struggle with that. And so it was just that reminder of going, okay, you know, I should have just sat with it. I should have laid on the couch, put my weighted blanket on, just let myself kind of process through that.
Yeah.
Instead I've numbed it out with, you know, something.
Well, and I think that it's valuable to know that even the therapists don't always do it. Like,
right. We don't
we're superhuman as people. Like, that's just the truth.
Well, we're not superhuman.
We're very human.
We're very human.
Very human.
I don't have a cape, but I'm not sure about you.
No, me neither. If I did, I wouldn't tell you.
Yeah, incognito.
That's probably the most Shane-like thing I've done all season.
Shout out to Shane.
So yeah, I think it's valuable to recognize, like, with both money and food, the unhealthy relationship really falls into, or at least the key moment that makes it unhealthy or perpetuates the unhealthy relationship is not responding, but reacting. I get.
Distinction.
I feel, I feed.
Right.
Instead of, if you had said, okay, I'm reaching for those almonds. Why am I doing that? I feel really anxious. I feel really anxious about this. I'm thinking that if I eat these things, it will make me feel better. Well, maybe the chocolate actually will release some of the chemicals in my brain that may help. Okay, if that's the case, then am I self-medicating? And if I'm self-medicating, can I use a different – like, there's a thought process. Right. And if we engage in that thought process, then we're able to dissect and be able to say, like, okay, me purchasing this thing is not going to make me a better videographer.
Right.
And what I really want is to be known as a good videographer.
So sit with that for a minute.
Yeah.
And next week, if you still need the thing or want the thing, then get the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's that delayed gratification that we don't know in this society.
No, because it's hard. It's hard and it sucks a lot of the time.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I remember who was I talking to? Oh, one of my old students at CCU, their wife used to work at USAA, and they're no longer in the state. But she would tell me, she goes, I can't tell you how many young men and women, you know, enlisted men and women, they get their first paycheck and call us and go, I need approval for a loan. I want to go buy this $70,000 BMW. And they're like, okay, well, I can afford the payment. I'm sure you can, but that's like 3/4 of your paycheck every month.
Right.
Well, you know, housing and food is all taken care of, being on base and all that kind of stuff. But I'm like, but it's that I have this, I want that, and I want it now.
And even like, I'm in this position and I'm expected to have something like this.
Right. And I'm not blaming generation, because this is every generation.
Oh, yeah.
From baby boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, Gen Zers. You know.
I mean, the national debt started with the nation. Like, it's not like, it's not something that's new.
Well, and credit cards have been around for a while. I was going through, was it my great grandmother's? We found all her textbooks from her degree at Stanford from the early 1900s. And I was just I love thumbing through old books, and this paper fell out, and it was a credit application from a department store in New York City in 1905.
Wow.
Or something like that. It just said, hey, you know, Mrs. We know that you are a person of means, and this would be a great way for you to be able to buy clothes whenever you need to.
Interesting.
And it was not a credit card, but it was a credit
line.
Yeah. And I'm just like, huh. That's before the Great Depression, before World War I, before World War II, before.
Yeah. Well, and let alone the viciousness of like interest and things like that's another conversation for another time.
Compounding interest or interest.
But I think that with money, with food, we don't think that it has a compounding interest. Sure. But it does as well. Like there's not
good terminology.
There's not a way to satisfy our core needs with things that don't actually satisfy without causing more damage than good.
Right.
Because like we talked about in the sugar, porn and fame episode, sugar to an empty stomach satisfies for a moment and then makes the hunger worse.
It does, because it's you wonder why fast food joints are so popular, because of the combination of salt, fat, and sugar.
Yeah. And it does something to us where it satisfies for a moment. And I don't want to neglect that.
No.
Retail therapy satisfies something for a moment.
Right.
And food satisfies something for a moment.
And money does.
Yeah. Like even just getting a $20 bill will satisfy something for a moment. But ultimately, you are going to be left so much more unsatisfied in life later on. And I think the big problem is that you may come 10 years from now and feel really unsatisfied in life, but not know why. It's because you haven't taken those moments to really recognize, why am I engaging in these behaviors and in these actions?
Right.
Whenever a client comes to me and says, like, oh, I realized this week that I cut because I was feeling really upset. I'm like, that is a great thing to recognize.
Right.
I am so proud of you that you were able to recognize why you did this and you chose a coping skill, because it doesn't matter to me that they chose one that's really negative and harming.
Right.
It matters to me that they're starting the process of being able to consciously choose. I know that self-harming is going to help me feel better in this moment.
Versus.
So that's what I'm going to do.
And then the question I always ask is, so what did you learn?
Right.
And maybe what we could do differently next time.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, that was so bad. It's so horrible.
Right.
Like, what were you thinking?
I know. Which is to respond more than we react.
But which is the typical human reaction, especially a parental reaction. And if we're getting into the parental piece of
parental
police. That's kind of policing parents. No, but the parental, response is typically fix it. What were you thinking? Why did you do that?
Right.
Type of thing. And that just creates more maladaptive behavior.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good reminder for us too, that when we recognize how we've coped, to not be down on ourselves.
Yeah.
Really go, okay, I had a need or a distress and I responded. What could I do differently next time? Is a lot easier.
Yeah.
Than, you stupid.
Right.
What were you thinking?
And I think my challenge for our listeners today definitely comes from a motivational interviewing perspective. Yeah. And that's just a theoretical orientation. If you want more information, I'm sure we can do an episode on that someday down the road. It's super fun.
A lot of questions.
Yeah. But my challenge would be, can you at least recognize the why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why did you buy that thing?
Yep.
Why did you eat that food?
Why did you, avoid whatever with money or food? Yeah.
And if you feel like the answer you're giving is really simple, take a second and think about, why does it feel so simple?
Sure. And if it's simple, then maybe there's a simple response.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if I just waited, 5 more minutes and taken a deep breath, I wouldn't have responded that way.
Or if I was hungry,
well, that's fine.
Great. Yeah. Then I was hungry.
Maybe it's food choice next time, not the fact that you ate.
Yeah.
Twinkie versus an apple.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Preserving your insides versus, helping your insides.
Yeah. I don't know if I can make a really good case for eating a Twinkie.
No. Especially since you leave that on a fence post and it doesn't do anything.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy what we can put on our bodies and our bodies still manage to function.
We justify putting in our bodies.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the thing. If it's not simple, then call somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Seek out a counselor, seek out a trusted friend or a mentor to be able to help process that with you.
Yeah.
Because it's okay to go, I don't know why I do this.
Yeah.
That's just maybe the way I've always done it. And you need to help tracing back to the core or the origin, so, give us a call.
Yeah.
Not a big deal.
We'd love to be able to sit with you in that, because you're not alone in that struggle.
No.
It's so normal.
Yeah. I think that's the big word right there. It is normal.
Yeah. And normalized too.
Right. And that everybody does it to some degree. And if you are fighting us right now with that, then you probably got something you're not being honest with.
Sit with it for a second. I mean, this should be an uncomfortable conversation. It's a little bit uncomfortable for me, because it is making me think about some of the choices that I've made, even in the past, 24 hours.
Well,
that I need to reevaluate.
And there's some justification there too, right? I mean, you've been sleep deprived with a new kid.
Yeah.
And so your emotions have been all over the place.
All over the place.
So, okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. And I think, we talk about this, especially in like DBT and the Monday Minute. Judgment is going to come up very frequently. And the thing to do with judgment is to acknowledge it and move forward.
Right.
because you're going to hear those judgments come up all the time, but those aren't always helpful.
Or true.
Or true, yeah. Yeah. I shouldn't have done that. Well, is that really true? Or is that an unfair judgment? I should be like this person. Is that an unfair comparison?
Right.
I mean, we do this with finances too, of I should have that car because I'm in this position.
Or I shouldn't be in debt right now, like because of maybe retail therapy or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I shouldn't be in debt. Well, okay, you are in debt.
Right.
So what are you gonna do about it? And not judge yourself.
Yeah.
Like go, oh, I'm so stupid. Like I can't handle finances and blah blah blah. No. Like you are in debt.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
And it's, oh, okay. Well, I have a plan. Great. You know.
And if
you mess up and put something on a credit card, and okay, just take a step back and go, you know, I need to cut that up, or I need to put it in a safe, or I need to put it someplace where it's not going to be a temptation to jump in. And I think there's a solution for that's motivational interviewing right there.
Right.
I mean, there's a solution for everything.
Well, and I think that the pattern of growth is common across life.
Yep.
Like it's the way you're going to grow in struggles with eating relationships or money relationships is the same way you're going to grow in any other aspect of your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just because it's a process of growth.
Right.
And it's okay to be growing.
Yeah. And we should be acknowledging that. Yeah. I some of the hardest clients I've ever had have been in their, you know, late 50s, early 60s, and they're like, I don't need to be learning. I don't need to be growing.
Oh man, yeah.
I'm like, well, you're actively dying then.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're not. What do you expect to come out of this?
Right. Yeah. Well, it's been this has been a good episode. I think it's been a challenge, like you said, for both of us. Yeah. I feel it in my gut right now going, there's some things I need to work on. But for those that are listening, you know, good resources. You can still check out springsummit.org and upload some of the videos that we've done. I know it's past November 7th, but you can still access that for some resources. Call us at Mayfield Counseling Centers. Check out our YouTube channel. Yeah, we've got a great Monday Minute that is just practical tools for your day.
So many free resources.
Yeah, check it out. Subscribe. I mean, that'd be nice. We get 1,000 subscribers. We can start making some money on the YouTube channel with some advertisements.
Some give back to us.
That'd be nice. But again, as always, the common form of flattery is share this with somebody else because maybe it'll bless somebody too.
Yeah.
Perfect.